Rise and conquer. Faith, strength, victory.
If Jesus returned today, would we believe him? If I came back today, would you believe me? Or would the first thing you ask be, prove it, show me something real, something undeniable, something that cannot be questioned? Heal someone in front of me, change something instantly, fix what I cannot fix. Because today, belief is no longer simple. Faith is no longer enough for many. People don't just want to believe. They want to see, to measure, to understand before they surrender. And if I stood in front of you, calm, present, without spectacle, would that be enough? Or would you need more? Would you need something bigger, louder, impossible to ignore? Because the truth is, the world has changed, not in its need, but in its expectations. Today, people are surrounded by information. Everything is explained, analyzed, debated. Truth is questioned. Reality is filtered. And in the middle of all that noise, faith becomes harder to recognize. Not because it is gone, but because it is buried. So if I spoke, would you listen? Or would you test every word? Why is there so much suffering? Why do innocent people hurt? Why didn't you stop this or that? Questions that come from pain, but also from resistance. Because if I am real, then something inside you has to respond. Something has to change, and not everyone is ready for that. Some would follow, not loudly, not immediately, but quietly, watching, observing, trying to understand what they are feeling. Because something would feel different, something would feel real, even if they couldn't explain it yet. But many would reject me, not because they don't see, but because they don't accept. Too simple, too different. Not what I expected, because people don't just reject what they don't understand. They reject what doesn't fit into what they already believe. And others would turn me into content, videos, clips, opinions, talking about me, analyzing me, debating me, turning something real into something consumable. Because that is what the world does now. It observes everything, but connects with very little. And in the middle of all that, the real question would remain, would you believe? Not because of what you see, but because of what you feel. Not because it makes sense, but because something inside you knows. Because even before, many saw me, many heard me, many stood close enough to touch me, and still, they did not believe. Not because there wasn't enough evidence, but because their hearts were not open. And today, it may not be so different, because the problem is not proof. It is not miracles. It is not explanation. It is attention. It is willingness. It is the heart. So if I came back today, would you believe me? Or would you need more? And even if I gave you everything you asked for, would it finally be enough? Or would you still doubt? Because the question is not if I would come. The question is, would you be ready to believe? If this made you think, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, and comment. I would believe.